When you encounter a human discarnate entity attachment, to what extent do you try to determine with your client if there's some sort of prearrangement, a karmic issue going back, and also do you ever try to do past life work with the attachments?
Maybe. It depends on the connection between the client, the host, and the earthbound spirit. Common experience, I mean, kind of a model was, there was a male client who had an earthbound spirit attached, and the earthbound spirit had been his brother in a prior life hundreds of years ago. And they had vowed always to protect each other and be with each other. I will always be with you. That's a common vow that some of us make in lifetimes, in romance or in brotherhood, family. So when the brother in that life died, he attached to the client in that life. And then, so we went back to that dependency and protective relationship and brought healing to it for both of them in that lifetime. And then the brother that had attached repeatedly was free to go. So the client was no longer unconsciously holding on to the brother, and the brother didn't need to protect him anymore. Another divine presence that I use is the planning period. Planning period? Why would you use that? Because if you go back far enough in the planning period, you're in a very high divine state. There's minimal intrusion by the egoic minding of the soul that's starting to emerge prior to coming down. Okay, so there's clarity, there's usually blue, there's peace, there's I feel good inside, I have no body. And so you can use that as a resource. I often do it with clients that are not believing in reincarnation because I want to bring them an experience that'll kind of blow their mind spiritually around their concepts, but something that they might be able to, well, you know, they're in trance state, planning period, I have no idea what that is, but they're in this feeling state of, instead of the trauma that they were in at age 4 in this life, they're back in this higher state. And in effect, they're in the light, but in a place in their soul's evolution where there's clarity and connectedness inside with their own inner being, with the self. And so then I'll say now, after they've been in that for a few minutes, let's carry that back into that place of either conception, which sometimes I visit, or the womb. Notice the impact of the state of the planning period upon that event. What happens? Oh, well, my parents are getting along just fine. And there's love. And I feel safe and I feel loved, contrary to abandonment, you know. So again, there's a transmutation that takes place by using the higher state.
Greg, how young can you regress a person?
I think the earliest I've done is 11 or 12. And I use a whole different approach for children under that. I do surrogate work, which scares some people, but works pretty well. In the beginning of my book, there's a story that I camouflage. It was actually a boy, an 8-year-old, who was a mess. He'd been adopted after a year and a half being with drug-using parents and lots of domestic violence, and just never bonded with the adoptive mom, and had been to a number of psychiatrists and had different diagnoses and different medications. They were changed once a year. So I met him, the mom whom I had done work with one-on-one, brought him in, and I just looked at him and connected with him, you know. And then I scheduled about a week later a remote session with a surrogate who was a friend of mine, a colleague, who was very intuitive and psychic and present and had no agenda. And we called for, put her into trance, and then in my office, and then called for the presence, the spirit of the boy who lived in the mountains in Colorado. Cleared out attachments, cleared out the experience of violence when he was in the womb and in the first year and a half, and did one past life regression in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and the next day he was fine.
And he wasn't participating at all?
No, he still doesn't know. But he, you know, all the symptoms that he had had of his aggression in the classroom, his depression in the morning, his attitude towards parents, adoptive family, that everything was gone.
This is in your book?
That's the story in the prologue,
Okay.
except it's described as a girl. Yep.
I may have missed it. Did you describe how he initially asked for this, or somebody asked?
The mother did.
On his behalf? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, on rare occasions, I'll have a grandmother, you know, say, would you take care of my grandchild, you know, or another parent. Actually, I do quite a bit these days for children who are 12 or younger. And the parents ask me, and I may know the child, and I may ask the child, do you want me to do some magic for you so you feel better? Yeah. Okay, so now when you go home, the first thing you're going to do is rewrite how you work with people, you know, and feel really amazed by it. People come out of these experiences at the end of a session and they're stoned. You know what I mean? Like they just took acid. I don't mean any disrespect, but that's how often clients feel when they come out after being in divine presence for a while and trauma has been cleared out or transmuted. So that is the self coming through, having had at least one veil of illusion or allusion cleared that was a sanskara. So in that way, it is a pathway, not the, but a pathway to self-realization for people that want to pursue it in that, with that kind of consciousness about how this world we put there. And if there's something about us in it that makes us disgruntled or angry or pissed off or rejected, it's our movie, and we can bring healing to it, and this is one way. That's it.